Here we are in the Becker Sand and Mushroom Company cave, which it started about the year 1900. But this cave, which is the largest mushroom growing cave in St. Paul, with about 2.5 kilometers of passages, it was at its height in the roaring 20s. And there's a beautiful 1923 newspaper article by J. Ludden that talks about this cave, and and he describes it as a medieval temple. Now, where I'm standing, it looks like a junk pile, but we'll go off in the back, and we're going to see some passages that are indeed somewhat, like the passages in a cathedral. They're very high, nice, very, pointed passages. In 1929 city directory, the Becker Cave is mentioned. And then it kind of, it wasn't again until about World War II that we see a mention of it, when an Italian mushroom grower by the name of Nazareno Capicaso grew mushrooms here. And after World War II, we don't hear about it again in the city directories as actually as a mushroom growing cave. And I think it might have been abandoned for many years. But in the 60s, again, it comes into the record. A guy by the name of Lyman Brown bought the cave. And I know there's the urban explorers call this the Lyman Brown Cave. But Lyman Brown was just a real estate guy. He wasn't, he wasn't a mushroom grower, wasn't one of the historic mushroom growers at all. And it was about that time that this cave was surveyed for use as a fallout shelter in the wake of the Cuban Missile Crisis in the early 1960s. They wanted to know how many people they could fit in here in the event of a nuclear apocalypse. And the calculation was about 1,774 people could fit in here. Actually, as you'll see, probably a lot more you could actually pack. And, if you're going to go with the Tokyo subway density, you could pack a lot more people in here than that. In 1965, the cave was flooded. The Mississippi River, as we call it, the Noah's Flood. And so there's probably a really good flood layer in here. But we don't know about that so much because, as I said, you can see this junk. In 1985, unfortunately, the old High Bridge, when they knocked that down to build the present High Bridge, they pushed all that junk in here. And so that's what you're looking at. You're looking at concrete, looking at rebar, steel beams, and so on that are associated with the old High Bridge. And it is created in this cave, as you will see, what we call inverted topography. And that is to say, as the bulldozer pushed it in, we can tell it was some kind of bulldozer, something with a blade, because there are successive waves of debris. Like, they came up and then successively. And you see that all the way back through the cave. And so they pushed this material in here. And what it did is in the high parts of the cave, that's where they had the best access along this main axis that we're on, the main axis of the cave here. And it created the biggest hills there. And in the what had been small passages, they couldn't really get in there with the bulldozer or earth-moving equipment, so they kind of left those alone. So the great became small and the small became great, and that's what we call inverted topography. There was one map made of this cave, in addition to the Cold War era map. Gerboth made a map of this cave in 1981. It was the last pre-fill map before they put all this junk in here. And again, he shows this cave, like all the maps show this cave. It's one long. We're standing at the original entrance on Water Street here, which is just behind the camera. And this axis it doesn't look like very big, but that's because of the inverted topography phenomenon. And this one goes all the way back. And then you have branches coming off, which he successively numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's sort of like a a telephone pole. You know, if you were to look at a telephone pole with the main pole and then these things coming off like that. I should just say one more thing about the name of the cave, the Becker Sand and Mushroom Company Cave. It had a dual purpose. Wasn't just mushroom growing here. They also used it. It was also initially carved out for the silica, perhaps for glass making, for foundry, or for making of mortar. Okay, and as the sand miners kind of pushed their way forward, the mushroom growers could come in behind them. And so we're going to see some interesting stuff as we kind of make our way through this cave.
So this is just one side passage. Kind of give you a scale of this cave. And that's actually after it's been backfilled, so pretty impressive. So there's indents. Actually kind of looks like a mailbox setup or something. Cave mail, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what it is, it's concrete. There's regular concrete solid block at the bottom and the top, and then the
Oh, they just kind of made it to match.
concrete block in between.
So,
and then there's kind of a wood frame up at the top part.
Interesting.
Filled with rock.
Might be back to the surface. A vent.
Pardon me?
Ventilation shaft that's been backfilled.
Probably. I don't know anything about ventilation shafts.
Okay. All right. Well.
Okay. So we're going to take like a little roundabout in the cave and kind of go up and down the side passages. So we're more or less at the Water Street entrance of the cave, and here's the main access. And so we're on this first side passage here, and again, I'm just using the Gerbothian numeration he came up with in 1981. We'll come around up here and then up to number 2 and up to number 3, and so on as we make our way. It's ultimately deep in the cave. He marked something here called the Devil's Altar or the Shrine or something like that. So I guess that's going to be our far point. We're kind of heading up in that direction, but this is kind of, all these notes are overlaid on this old Cold War map from 1962 when they thought they were going to stuff a bunch of people in here. So we can compare it and see if anything is collapsed, or if there's somebody's dug a new passage or something like that as we make our way through. So we're just going to head up now, up the first side passage. It could be actually from this groundwater coming out at the core of contact.
So this rope goes up to the surface, obviously.
Yeah.
Hey, well, we won't die of thirst if we get trapped in here. We got a wow, that goes way up there.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a nice ventilation shaft.
Man-made.
Working our way down.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, this is the cross cut between the first and the second parallel. And this is the first place I've seen that we've done today gives you a sense of the full height of the Becker Sand and Mushroom Company cave. And again, J. Ludden in 1923 compared this to a medieval cathedral, this cave. And you start to get a sense of that now, you know, that high pointed. It does become a question whether this cave, this is all St. Peter sandstone, obviously. It does become a question. I think this comes right up against the Platteville limestone, the next layer above. I don't know if there are any rooms in this cave that actually break out into the Platteville limestone above us. We'll find out. Maybe there's some dome that where it's migrated up into that layer. Yeah. Oh. Okay.
That's interesting, that door to nowhere.
Oh, yeah, isn't there like, there's some song or something like the door, wait, I don't know. Yeah, so, we were walking along in the second side passage and we came across this helpful map of the cave system that somebody drew, and you can see here. Now this here is the Becker Cave, and they're calling it the Lyman Cave. Again, I said that's a later name. We're about right here as far as on this map, so we got a long ways to go here. And then they helpfully illustrate here. They call MT the Milk Truck Caves. Right over here. So that's kind of unusual. I just wanted to say a little bit about the smoke blackening that you see. This is so intense. You know, where they scraped away the smoke, the soot, and to reveal the white sandstone underneath. And the fact that this soot is ubiquitous throughout the 2.5 kilometers of this cave suggests to me this is not like a localized fire or campfire in one room. This was a conflagration. And my theory about this is that when Lyman Brown, maybe, I don't know if it was Lyman Brown or maybe the person before him, the last mushroom grower, Nazareno in World War II, he wanted to sell this cave. They said, you need to get rid of all these wooden mushroom shelves that were in here. Just countless wood, mushroom shelves. He torched that. That's my guess. He burned those. This must have been an underground fire that went on for a long time. And the fire department that day, they're very happy about it. But that's, I believe, the only thing that could explain this intense soot that is present throughout the cave. If it were just in one room, it would be easily explained by a campfire. But this is just so unusual. Hey, well.
Expecting a giant cast iron sewer pipe, soil pipe, storm pipe. I don't know what it is.
Some kind of
pipe.
There's some drainage pipe on the old high bridge. I don't know.
Oh, could be.
It'd be interesting to, if you could just reconstruct the high bridge.
Yeah. Like you said, the price of scrap iron must have been pretty low.
Hey.
See a lot of it in here, the old high bridge.
We should carry this out and sell.
Yeah. Yeah, no, if you could get it somewhere, you'd make some money on that piece.
Yeah, here we are in a rebar pit. This is debris from the 1985 demolition of the high bridge, the old high bridge. And we got all kinds of funky junk in here, and it could be dangerous. There's nails exposed. You could, I just recently had a tetanus shot. I hope you have too. Because who knows what you might step on, some sharp piece or get cut or something in this rebar snake pit, as I call it. Okay.
Old cast iron radiator, some more parts. Lots of junk. Endless cave of junk. Some other point in time, I'll make a full video of the walkthrough, which would be quite extensive.
So it's kind of like get that to illustrate, to illustrate.
So how far are you from the back right now?
It's hard to say.
I think
I don't know, a few.
halfway between you and the end.
Wow, that's impressive. Because you're what? You're probably 200 feet away from me.
Oh yeah, you can measure it on this map.
Oh, all right, all right.
Tell you exactly. Now, but
So it's impressive. This is just a side passage.
yeah.
Wow, big cave.
It's interesting that the
Let me know when you're.
No, I'm recording now. If you got something to say, say it.
Yeah. So we are here in the 5th side passage, and this is the longest one in the cave. And what it's really best for is you can see going back that you can see the effects of the bulldozer in the floor. The undulations in the floor. They go up and down, and it kind of marks the blade wavelength for this. When they were coming in here, they push a bit in with the debris, and then they pull. Then they come get some more, and you can see here at about something like about a 5-meter wavelength or something like that distance between the crests of these dirt ridges, and it goes like all the way back.
So this is the 5th passage.
Yep, there's the other side. This is on the other side of the main drag. You see those bulldozer ridges and how they accomplish this, pushing all this fill material in here. And again, these side passages deep in the cave here, again, they don't have a lot of metal in them. They're just the metal rich passages are the ones down near Water Street. Oh yeah, I don't know how many of those ridges. There's just like dozens of them going back there. Up and down, up and down.
If I had a better flashlight, kind of running out of battery, sadly.
There he is.
You to the end yet?
About halfway.
Oh, you're only halfway?
Probably, yeah. That's
wow.
About halfway.
All right, I'm going to kill the video. I think it's good enough. He's out of my frame anyways.
Okay.
I'll get him when he's coming back.
Sure. Here we are at the very end of the main axis of Becker Cave. So we're way up here now. So we're as far away from Water Street in a straight line as we can get here. And so you can see it just dead ends there. I kind of expected an air shaft because a lot of mushroom growing requires proper ventilation and there are frequent air shafts. But at this point, if you were to have an air shaft, it would have to go up through about 300 feet of rock to get, and you'd end up in Cherokee Park, which is right above us. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go down the spooky 6th passage. And that's off over this way and up to what Dave Gerbloth in 1981 wrote on his map is like the Devil's Altar or something like that. So this is like the end of our little unholy pilgrimage here. We'll go see what we find at the ultimate innermost sanctum of Becker Cave. Well, here we are at the innermost recess of the Becker Cave, which is marked on this 1981 notation here. It says that this is the shrine. It's like, so here we are, and I agree in the sense that this is definitely the most ornate, carved up place in the entire cave. You can see as you look along the wall here, some mostly skulls, of woeful aspect. We do have some other things in here like Edvard Munch, who did the Scream, that painting The Scream. You see that kind of head here. various bands. We have, you know, Led Zeppelin, we have Kiss. So we have some homages there to rock music. But you know what this, in an anthropological sense, what this reminds me of is when you're traveling through the Yucatan and in Mexico, and you see the Mayan glyphs, and they have these Mayan platforms just like with rows of skulls along the base, and that's kind of the sort of thing that this reminds me of here. There aren't very many religious emblems here. I mean, you do see some kind of allusions to religion, but you know, there is, I think there's a cross or two in here. Well, like I think, here, okay, here's a cross right here. See that one. Some other religious motifs, but it tends to be, it seems to be more of a pagan type shrine, if you want to put it that way, for what it's worth. We're in the largest room in the cave, in Becker Cave. And this is the known as Imax Theater. It's actually, I don't think it's deliberate. I think it is actually a collapsed dome. And that's why on the fallout shelter map, they label it as sort of like an unsuitable space to keep people in. I think what you see here is that rocks that have tumbled maybe from the ceiling at one time or another. I mean, and way up at the top, I mean, I still don't see the overlying Platteville limestone here, but it could be. Maybe it's under that smoke blackening. If you look down here, you can see this is, you know, the Parisian catacombs were famous for their subterranean cinema. You know, they show movies underground, and they have like chairs and stuff. And this is kind of the same thing, I gather. I've never been at one of these events, and then you can see that it's kind of been scratched out. The sands, the soot's been scratched away, and they've provided a screen there. And another person said that, jokingly said that that was, you don't really need to show movies there. If some were high on something, they just stare at the wall and they see all kinds of colored hair. I don't know about that, but my theory about this is that why the collapse is here is we're entering an unstable region of the cave where, as you'll see in another place, there's actually a stream, a surface stream passing overhead, passing over the top of the cave. It's a natural stream, it's always been there. They dug under it, interestingly enough. In that area is kind of where we see the most collapse and the pools of water on the floor and that sort of thing. So that will be our next adventure here. We'll head up that way. Just to point out, I guess they were hoping to hang some like chandeliers here or something. Maybe that chandelier was to be ferried up to the ceiling by this helium balloon, which kind of lost most of its oomph.
So what do you say that ceiling, how tall is that, 40, 50 feet?
Oh, not that, I would say, you know.
Well, careful, never mind, don't even look.
I would say it's about 30, yeah, it's about 30 feet up there.
Okay. All right.
But this is, oh, it's a fish, yeah. So this is kind of the last of the helium balloon, and that's kind of cool. Anyway.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for the tour.
Well, this is the lowest part of the cave, the sump, as a caver would call it, where the water settles. But the water here it's definitely related to the fact that we have a surface stream flowing down over the cliff above, and you can see that on Water Street very clearly. There's a ravine that comes down, and the spring water comes down from the Decorah Shale up near Cherokee Park, flows down to the ravine, and then eventually it's kind of like seeping in through cracks and crevices and ending up here. And so one of the things that's interesting, somebody else noticed here, is that there's no smoke blackening on the walls here. And I think that's because that this part of the cave did not participate in the conflagration. There's a broken wall there right in the front of the camera, a broken edge. I think this part of the cave was walled off because it was an unstable area. And you have water seepage, and it just was not a good place for mushrooms, and so it was kind of walled off as a sump area. And I think so probably that wall was intact at the time of the conflagration that produced the universal soot in the upper cave, that we've already seen up there. And then right around the corner here, looks like somebody's built a table, or I guess would that be a bar?
It'd be a wet bar.
Oh good.
Yeah.
A swim up bar, basically.
Swimming up. Yeah. Oh, so
Whoa.
careful.
The year was 1919, the start of prohibition. So we had to build the bar in the cave to drink beer. Right here. This is the oldest bar in Becker Cave.
This is an alternative history channel right now. Totally alternative. Thank you.